Sitting across from me is a man I'm privileged to call friend for over a dozen years. He's a guy that when you need to talk to somebody, you can talk to him straight and it's not going to be a lot of BS. He'll listen, and at times when necessary, he'll call you out, and bring correction to your life if it's needed. Someone you can share with and not feel condemnation or worry that it's going to go beyond his ears. It's going to stay there. It's going to stay in his heart. There are few friends that I've had in life that know everything about me and still stick around. I was introduced to Jason Taylor in 2009 by another good man, Tony King.
Mm-hmm.
And I've claimed him as a close friend ever since. He doesn't know this specifically, but he saw me through a very rough time in my life. He probably remembers some of these conversations, but there was a time when I was truly shipwrecked as a believer, and I was going through a lot, and it was everything just to keep my head above the water, afloat. I felt very far away from God and all alone. So talking about God has always been our connection in life. That's really what we do. When we get on the phone or we're texting, it's only a conversation about God. It's very seldom a conversation about anything else. And his love and hunger for the scriptures inspired me on a daily basis. It was the thing that when he sent me a text, I thought, oh, great. I'm going to chase this thing. I'm going to get back in the Word. It inspired me, and it motivated me to keep searching the ways of God. And so within about a year of getting to know him and talking to him, my fellowship was restored, and I was at peace again. If I were to choose a verse, I thought about this last night. Laying down in bed, I thought, God, what would be the verse that I would use? If I were to describe Jason, what would be that verse? And I waited because I knew he'd tell me.
Yeah.
And he did. He gave me Isaiah 6:9 or 6:8, and it says, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send?
Send me.
Yep, that's what it was.
Here I am, Lord.
Welcome, Mr. Jason Taylor. Everybody, this is a good buddy of mine. He's truly a man with a big heart for God, and he has a sincere love for people.
Well,
and
sometimes.
A lot of times. Well, I know your life. I know what you've been through. For how long you've been pastoring?
Since 08, January 08. When we started the church in 07 and actually started searching in 06.
Yeah.
Become a church in 07 and then got in the position in 08.
Did you ever think you were going to be a pastor?
No, sir. No. In fact, when Mr. Wiley, who God called to start the church, called me and asked me if I'd help him, I told him I'd do anything. Mow the yard, furnish livestock, build a barn.
Did you ever think that you were going to be a pastor?
No, sir. Not in the slightest. Never.
You grew up cowboying your whole life.
Yep.
Your parents, they're cowboy.
My dad,
And-
my granddad, my great-granddad, we cowboyed, ranched, and raised cattle.
The real deal.
Yes, sir.
And now, so how far back do you think it was when you first believed in the Lord? Really like gave your life to the Lord. When did that happen? I know that we all have different times.
Oh yeah, and growing up cowboying and farming and ranching, and you, there's no doubt there's a God. You can't. I mean,
right?
You might not acknowledge him, but because you watch you rely so much on what only he can give you. I mean the rain, the growth. You see it, you know it, but. I first know I knew I needed him when I was a freshman in high school. Yep.
About what, 15?
13 or 14.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I knew him. Like I had relied on him through my parents' divorce when I was 7. Through the bus rides, I used to get on a Greyhound bus in Roswell, New Mexico, and ride it to Pecos when I was 8 and 9 to see my dad, and then back home. So there were some times, some things been in that area of life, that tragedy that there's love.
Do you remember how that happened? That first time that you think that you surrendered yourself to the Lord?
When I was a freshman in high school, I'd been in not a rough spot. Like I had let myself get into a couple of situations that were not very healthy. Not nothing tragic, you know. Just I mean, I was pretty rank. I drank a lot and just did whatever. I've been driving a pickup all over the place since I was in the 8th grade, you know, and kind of doing that. I had to, you know, I mean, my dad was always involved and knew where I was, but I had gotten in over my head a little bit on a situation or two, and I ended up at a Baptist church, and
was this in?
There's a revival there in Carlisle, Price, Texas, and man, this guy preached, and I knew he was talking to me, and I knew because of my upbringing and because of the struggles that I had watched my parents go through, the heartache of busted up families, the disappointments, that emptiness that you can have, that I think, you know, maybe hopefully a lot of people don't have it at such an early age, but a lot do nowadays. You know? I mean, there's a lot of kids that go through a lot of stuff. And, you know, and so when I was there and that guy was preaching, the Holy Spirit drawed me, and I knew, I'm like, nothing else makes sense all the time, and I don't understand, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that you follow?
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
It was like the clouds parted and a beam of light came in, and you're like aware.
This is what you got. This is where this is green grass. You know, this is a fresh, cold drink of water.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it. You know, I mean, 13.
So you surrendered.
I accepted what he offered.
Okay.
Big difference.
Yeah.
I accepted what he gave, you know, and I know I was saved. I know. I accepted what he gave me, but I didn't give him nothing back.
Okay. So how long do you think that lasts? That relationship? You know, I'll rephrase that. A relationship was birthed, but a fellowship didn't ever really come to fruition.
I can remember when because I had shot myself in the leg, and I was had a cast from right at my thigh all the way to my ankle, and I hobbled down there on them crutches, and I'm crying, snot's running out my nose, and I'm thinking, what are you doing down here in front of all these people? You know, and thank the Lord, it wasn't a huge crowd, but and then I prayed, and you know, that guy led me in sinner's prayer and asking the Lord to come into my life, and I did, and he said the thing every man fears. Now we're gonna pass by and offer Jason the hand of brotherhood or something. You know, I mean, it made me stand up there in front of all them people with all my just a wreck, you know.
Yeah.
And of course they were loving, good bunch of folks. They're just good people, and I still am friends with a lot of them, and they all come by, you know. So God, we're so proud for you. So, you know, and I had no idea what they were really talking about.
Okay.
I got back to the pickup out in the parking lot, and I'm sitting in that pickup, and a lady walked up to me, and I rolled the window down, and she said, I can't remember exactly how she started the conversation, but I said, I have no idea what I've done. I just know I'm not the same as I was.
Well, yeah.
And she she was, you know, kind of like it would be my grandmother's age, maybe. She patted my forearm, which was outside sitting on the windowsill, and she said, you'll never be the same. He has came into your life, and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
But you'll never be the same. And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking, you know, everything will be
right.
No. I got back home. It was still the same mess. I got back in trouble again the next day.
Did you tell anybody else, like in your family, did you tell them what had happened?
I told my dad, because that night, that preacher, the pastor of that church, which is still my friend, and he's still at that church, he said, you be here next Sunday, you bring a change of clothes, we're going to baptize you. I had no idea why. I just was raised, you do what you're told. And so I said, yes, sir. So I don't know, the next day or two, I told Daddy, my dad, I said, I'd gotten saved. And he said, what's good? Everybody needs to do that. And I said, I'm going to be baptized next Sunday. And I would you know, think you want to be there? He said, well, you know, I work, but if I can get done and get everything done, I'll be there. And so, you know, I drove myself to church the next Sunday, and carried my clothes and did what I was told, and I walked into that baptistry, and I remember being a little sad because my dad wasn't there. But when I walked, in the Baptist church, that baptistry is in the back, and you kind of walk over, and you can see. So I looked, and my dad was sitting in the back row in a 3-piece suit.
Whoa!
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I'd never seen him in a suit before in my life. 3-piece suit sitting on the back row. And I can remember going, he was the only family member I had there.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
get baptized, and I can't wait to get out and get my clothes changed.
Yeah.
And go sit with him.
Yeah.
And by the time I got out, got my clothes cleaned, got back over where he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
He stayed to watch me get baptized. He left before church ever got going.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big, from what I know of what you have spoken to me or told me about your dad, that was a big deal.
Huge. I had no idea why. I didn't know so many things about my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I didn't find out some of them till after he was dead. In which he died ironically November of 2007. I started preaching January of 2008. He died in a car wreck.
1 year.
2-3 months.
Oh wow. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
November. Okay. Same.
November 2007, January, first Sunday, January 2008. So 2 months.
Wow.
He died. My youngest, Kendall Grace's birthday is the 19th. I think he died on her birthday. She was 2 years old. Yeah. So, this, which means that'll be 15 years this month.
Yeah.
I mean, this year, this November.
He had a lot of influence in your life, raising you to be a man, a stand-up man.
Yeah, he didn't raise boys.
Yeah. So
you was a man.
Started early.
Yes, sir. You was a man at 5, 6, 7. You just was little. And he was a fair. He didn't ask you to do no more work than he did, but he knew at his age how much he could do, and it was like on a percentage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm a 10-year-old kid. He wouldn't expect me to do what he was doing at a 40-year-old man, but he expected me to do what a 10-year-old man would be able to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And he didn't. I mean, that was expected, and there was no alternative. There was no. I don't feel like it today. You got up and went to work every day.
Do you think that's why you have that same work ethic today? Because I don't know anybody that works like you work.
I don't. It's not work to me. It's just living.
Right. It's just the way it is.
It's just life. You get up every day, and you better be started at daylight. And it's not all. It's not necessarily. I'm not bragging about that.
Right.
Because it's hard. It's kind of sad, but one of the biggest things I have a hard time doing is enjoying and relaxing. Yeah. It says you're taught and you preach, just be in His presence and just have joy in it.
Right. And you want to get work.
Oh my gosh! You want. We got to be doing. Something.
The Apostle Paul was like that too. I mean, he was very focused on trying to finish the mission that Christ put on his life. Even when he's going to all these different places, you've seen the charts where it says the journeys of Paul. Well, he had big ambitions. He's like, I got to get over here. And he's in prison. He's still, I got to get over there.
It's like he even though Paul said, I've learned to be content.
Yeah.
I think what he meant was, I personally can live with anything in any way. It ain't gonna be but he was never content with what he had achieved, what he had, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think when he wrote, I have fought the good fight. I have finished. There was not an ounce left in him.
No, that was that is believed to be the last book he wrote, 2 Timothy. And I mean, he really did. He gave it his all. I mean, I talk to you all the time, and physically, you probably used up your physical body in life, working hard without any holding back.
Right.
And I see that is something that I find that you do the same thing spiritually. I mean, I've seen where you'll wear yourself out preaching or ministering or helping people or taking every call that comes in or visiting people. It's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it can wear you out a little soon.
Oh, man. And I never, honestly, I never was planning to be here this long. I mean, literally, people say that a lot, but it was never my intention to live this long.
You're 50s, right?
Yeah, I'm 51.
And so you didn't think?
I had begun to have a dream when I was a little kid, and I had that same dream till I was married in my 20s that I died at 28.
Wow.
I died in a pickup wreck, wrapped it around a tree, died, left 2 kids and a wife behind.
Wow.
Without it, I mean, very, not a fearful dream, never woke up crying, scared, woke up going, So I packed all I could in 28 years. You know, I mean, and even, me and Christy got married at 18, and I told her, I said, you need to understand something. I know this will happen. I will die at 28, and I will leave behind a wife and 2 kids.
How did she respond to that?
She was like, of course, I knew it was in a brown Ford pickup. The wreck happened in a brown Ford pickup. I've seen it so many times. I knew. She refused to let me have a brown Ford pickup. She was like, no brown Ford pickups. But, and she was like anybody else would. Okay.
Not kind of like, well,
on,
yeah. Didn't really believe it. But, that could have been, there's a dark world.
Mm-hmm.
There's an enemy we have. And he could have planted that seed, and he wanted to bring it to pass. He wanted to make it happen.
Well, you asked me when I got saved, when I accepted what he did.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking
if you
about that too.
fast forward to
when did you surrender your life to him?
I was 28 years old.
That's amazing.
I was 28 years old.
Were you aware? Were you conscious of that?
The day, July the 10th, the day I'm dead in my floor of my bedroom, I went, hell, I'm 28 years old.
So you were reminded. You were reminded about that.
Yep.
And it was done.
Yep. No doubt.
And
I'm like, then I said, Lord, I don't want to be alive. And the only reason I ain't dead yet is because I couldn't crawl the 10 feet to the corner and get that 12-gauge shotgun. I couldn't move. And my wife's gone. My kids are scared of me. There ain't a sucker on this earth.
So the thought did come to your mind to end it all.
Yeah, well, you bet.
Okay.
Not just the thought, the effort. I just couldn't move. I literally was on my floor, could not crawl no further. I don't know why. I mean, strung out 3-day meth high would probably have something to do with it, but 3 years of running, 2.5 years of running nonstop, wrecking everything you come in contact with, it takes its toll. But the at 28, my wife said, I can't live with you anymore. I can't.
Or was it like she didn't see a future, or she was afraid of you, or what was it?
By all that.
Okay.
I worked so hard and was so driven, and I didn't have compassion for people that weren't.
You're rough.
I would run over. I mean, I wasn't mean. I don't think I was mean, but living with me was mean because I was so driven and so determined and so angry at things and at life. And whenever I got messed up on methamphetamine so I could work nonstop, it gets a hold. I've always called it, ever since I got off of it, I call it Satan in a sack, because it comes in a little baggie, but it's a big demon. And
it's hard to get released from that thing.
Honestly, it's not so much, to me, it wasn't hard to get released from the drug. It was the depth that drug will, that the devil uses that to take you into his realm. I mean, you see people.
So how does he do that? He kind of like,
it's just like layers of light, preachers and churches and Christians, we love the layers of light, and we get more enlightened, and we see more in the presence, and it's the same way with darkness. And as you enter into the darkness, there's another layer of darkness, and then there's another layer of darkness, and then there's another. You know what I'm saying?
Is it dangling a carrot and asking you to come along, or are you just?
It's more like it's more like a hunger that entices you, but then it's the pain that pushes you. It's hard to explain. That may be the best way I can explain it. The pain, the regret, the shame, the guilt pushes you further into the darkness, and the darkness says, "This will cover it. This will nobody. You won't. This will And so then you enter that layer, and then there's another one, and outer darkness is the pinnacle of death.
Yeah. Yeah.
First comes the temptation, then that gives way to the action, and then the action of sin in turn leads to death.
What do you think was the thing that what dangled in front of you? Was it because, okay, I got to get this job done? This thing might be the thing. What was it that how was it introduced to you?
All right, so growing up, my old daddy drove a cattle truck.
Yeah.
And we had cattle trucks my whole life, shipping and hauling cattle. And I can remember the stories of my dad making 3 trips back to back to Raleigh, California.
Dang.
From Pecos, Texas.
Dang.
It's unheard of.
Yeah.
And thinking, man, I remember the day they drug my daddy's truck. He told her, the Texas lady, she was a cab over Kenworth, green flames down the side, had a big old screaming demon Detroit in it. I don't remember, but he had a ticket that he carried, a copy of the ticket in his pocket, was running 120. He was proud of that. I can remember the day they drug it into the yard, and it was cut plumb in half, looked like a sardine can, and he had 3 wrecks that day because he had been running for 4 or 5 straight days. All that, I knew all that. I watched it. I can remember my dad squatting down saying, "You can't go with me this time because I'm way too tired."
Wow.
And I can't have you boys in the truck.
Wow.
He knew, he was. So when you grow up and that's your hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're living the life and you're working and you're wore out. And I mean, it was in the season of 96 and 97. We was in a drought and we're selling record numbers of cattle at the sale barns, and I'm working 2 and 3 days straight on nothing, just coffee and Mountain Dews, and I'm wore out. But I'm loading cattle trucks, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're notorious for using speed of some kind.
Okay,
for
so
years.
It's common.
Oh yeah. Oh, it has been forever. Because you load a load of cattle in Florida that are going to the Panhandle of Texas or to Kansas, you don't stop and take a nap. Then you got live cargo on. You got to get where you're going.
Right.
And before regulations and DOT and all, and them fellas they was tough.
Yeah.
And they just hammered on it.
Yeah.
So you grow up with that being what a man is. You don't say no, I can't. You figure out a way.
Right.
And so I was pretty wore out. I was 26 and done been broke twice. Done been in 2 businesses, went broke. Like, I am not going broke again. I will make it this time. And so I won't never forget, the truck driver come bouncing down out of his truck, and I was loading trucks out of a sale barn. It was probably 3 in the morning. I'd probably been up 2 days, and I was wore out. And I told him, "Yes, look here, you're either finna share some of that junk, or you finna let me take me a break because I'm wore out. I'm finna." And he's like, "Man, I gotta go. Load my truck. I gotta go." And I'm like, "No, that's the deal." And that's when I did. And I tell everybody, I don't think we opened the gate the rest of the night. I think we jumped over everything. That was unreal.
Wow.
But it was never. It was a door I wish I had never opened.
And it was like a 3-year period of time that you were in.
It was about 2.5 by the end. Now 2.5 till I died. 4.5 till I was living again.
So after you're laying there, end of your life, and you realize, wait a minute, I'm 28, and this is
clear as a
end
bell.
of my life. It's right here.
Clear
it's
as a
10
bell.
feet from me.
Yep. Clear as a bell.
And so,
and there was a brown pickup involved.
Wow.
Well, I wasn't driving it, but there was but I'm like, well, there's the truck.
And what happened?
Oh, just after that.
No, I mean, what happened when you're looking and you've realized that this is the end? Is this a moment that you had an encounter with God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it happened.
Yep, everything stopped, everything. And I said, I said it. I said, "Lord, there ain't a sunbuck wants me, including me. I don't like me. My wife don't like me. My kids are scared of me. I had 2 of the sweetest kids. My girls, my big girls, what I call them. And they didn't understand. They loved me and I loved them. I never was hard, never was abusive, but
they didn't know you.
They couldn't. Yeah, they didn't know the darkness that I battled. I would push that darkness away so that them girls never had it, never seen it. But you talking about a heck of a fight. to keep that pushed away from them babies you're trying to protect, you know.
Right.
Laying on that floor, I said, well, I'm 28. It's a good day to die. And you know what? I can't kill myself because I can't get to that gun. But I can die.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody else wants me. But if you want me, I mean all of me. I don't want none of. I ain't keeping nothing. I want nothing. My life is over right now today. But if you want it, it's yours. And he spoke to my heart. I've never heard him audibly. I'm not one of them guys. That, I'm not saying there's people that don't. I'm just saying I ain't one of them.
Right.
My heart, he said, I've waited your whole life for you to get right here.
Wow.
And so, you know, I didn't have. I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't failed him since then and taken my life back.
Right.
But I've never not had the desire to honor that.
You remember that moment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. That was my Damascus road.
Yeah. That's right.
And then I laid there and I was hurting so bad, which, you know, I mean, anybody that watches this that has had those issues, those drug addictions, and they've damaged and beat their body to that degree. I mean, my eyelids hurt. I mean, literally, my eyelids would hurt. It would hurt to blink. And it would hurt to close them, and then it would hurt to open them. I mean, it's because your body is so beat down. Yeah. It's so just. So I was laying there, and everything on me hurt, and I had that conversation, and then I started saying, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass. This too." And
that was a word that he put in your heart.
He put it right, and it's never left.
Yeah, it's a rhema.
Peace.
That's a spoken word of God.
The only way I can describe it that people understand is I remind them of a time when they had the flu and their body was achy and they just felt miserable, and somebody that loved them went and put a quilt in the dryer, and they got them chills and them, you know, they're just like this, but then somebody lays that warm quilt on them, and it's like that's exactly what happened to me. That I don't know how long I laid that floor.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I lost track of time. Because I just, I never want to leave this place. I never want to be moved. Okay. So at the very moment, you know, and I've shared this for, I guess, 20 years now, over 20 years. My worst day was my best day. I experienced death, pain, heartache, disgust.
Yeah.
And the joy of life.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in your introduction, you talked about how I can talk to people or I can hear, and I mean,
that's important. I think that's probably why you have that ability, because you've been in a dark place, and you understand what that's like.
And it don't matter. It don't matter what it is, the conditions or situations that get you there. But because what matters is you're there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It may not be the same for you as it was for me. It may not be the same circumstances.
It doesn't, we don't have to go into all
it don't matter.
details.
It don't matter. I just want to know where you're at.
Yeah.
I don't care about all your, I mean, I'll hear it.
Can you see it? You know, you preach almost every Sunday, and you see some fresh faces out there. Do you ever look out and you see, I see what's happening in that guy's life?
You know, which as I've grown, you know what I'm saying? My life's verse, my oldest daughter gave me my life's verse probably a year after that day, maybe at the most two. It was Father's Day, and she took, and my oldest daughter, I don't want to get emotional, but she's always has been. She's a nurse, you know, she's a caregiver. She has had the heart of care her whole life. And so she's seen me. She cared, you know what I'm saying? So the Lord spoke to her heart, and she wrote Acts 20:24 on a piece of paper. However, I consider my life to be worth nothing to me, if only I might finish the race of testifying to the grace of God given to me through Jesus Christ. And she took it and wrote it, and then she wrinkled it up like trash. Then she straightened it out, and then she poured tea on it, and then she dried it in the dryer. And so this piece of paper that she framed and gave me, it looks like it's ancient. You know, it's got all this old faded, but that's a picture of my life.
Wow.
It was a fresh 20-something year old, but it had been wrinkled and wadded and stained, and
Yeah.
And so, that's my last verse. And so now what I do as a pastor, I didn't do this for a long time as a pastor because I wasn't mature enough. I didn't listen and see with, and I still fail at it. But people would get mad at me because I don't stop and talk to them, or because I didn't shake their hand, or because he says something. No, I'm not there to be social on a Sunday morning.
Right.
I pray all morning Sunday. Show me the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Show me the one. And so when I get to church, I try to just walk, but not be walking. I try to just. I don't know why I ended up over there.
Right.
I have no direction.
I
have
see.
no. I'm just, Lord, just lead me. And I try to just drift. And then every now and then, I will sit down beside somebody, and just be like, "How are you?" And when they just wreck out,
Wow.
I inside am celebrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I heard him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Lord.
yeah.
And then I don't even. I love to preach. I enjoy
Yeah, the
people
word, yeah.
fellowshipping. I love, but man, when you are allowed and you get that chance,
It's almost like you're him in the flesh.
we're actually doing what he asked us to do. When he says bear you one another's burdens,
Yeah.
he means be aware enough, be sensitive enough
Yeah.
for me to put you next to somebody
Yeah.
that can't carry it another step. And then just by you being there, and that I will move it. We all try to find them and try to,
Right.
and then let me take that off your shoulders, Joe. Let me, man, I can't take nothing off of you. I can't literally take.
Right.
Well, he's not talking about your paycheck ain't big enough.
Right.
He's
Right.
talking about the burdens of life,
Yeah.
the heavies. But when unknowingly to you and unknowingly to that person, you end up sitting right beside them, and you're just like, so what's going on? He moves that burden because he's the one that put
Yeah.
you beside them and put them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when he moves that burden, you get up and leave, and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can breathe. And there was no amazing council session. There
Right.
could have been only a 2 or 3 minute encounter, but it was all divinely inspired by the Spirit of God to set you right by them. See what I mean?
That's what you like.
I love it. No, I don't like it. I
Yeah.
love it. Makes all the other crap
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Right. All the, well, I tried to call you, all that,
Yeah.
we had Mother's Day. We don't, you always have opinions
Right.
in a church.
Right. Right.
You always, you do really great ideas to some people, but really
Right.
stupid ideas to
Right,
somebody else.
right.
And so you get both sides,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
okay.
It's just life.
It's just life.
Yeah.
But man,
But I like your attitude is like that's just life. But you're not worried about the politics behind it.
Well,
you
I
don't
mean-
have to always be trying to be right or worried about saying the wrong thing. You just go and say it.
yeah.
And
That's
you're
how I was-
surrounded by men though that will have your back,
absolutely.
which is very valuable.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
Also, you're surrounded by men. If you do mess up,
They'll jam you up. Yes, sir.
and I know
They
you
will.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir. I definitely do. I sure do. Because honestly, Joe, if you don't have that, how do you really know where you're at?
You really don't. And
No.
that's where you become a dangerous person.
I mean, I'm gonna push that boundary,
Yeah.
and I need somebody to bounce me back in.
Right.
And I'm gonna call. It's not because I'm anything other than simple. I'm just gonna, my wife can't stand the way I drive because I hit them braille strips. That brr, brr, brr.
Right.
And she's like, "Would you please stay in the lane?" Well, that's reminding me you're pushing it.
Right.
I am in my lane. That's what that's there for.
Right.
But most people,
Right.
they don't want to get close. It's okay. It's just ease along. It's not wired that way.
Yeah.
And I've never understood. I've never been. It's weird. I'm comfortable.
You're okay with that.
I'm not comfortable here. I'm comfortable, and I'm okay. I can be comfortable. You can knock me, and I won't like it, and I'll be sick for a day or two, or overnight I'll wrestle with something all night long. But it reminds me, It keeps me grounded. It keeps me connected.
Yeah.
Keeps me relying on the Lord and going, okay, Lord, boy, I've told my church several times, y'all should find a preacher. You know, I mean, I'm just me. I'm not.
Yeah.
And I got wrecks.
What's interesting is right off the bat when you it was Stacy who had a vision, right?
Oh, man called to God.
You guys are sitting in the same church, and if I got the story right, he's looking around and he's thinking, "Dang, you know, hey, but one guy in here who has a cowboy hat on, and I want to talk to him."
See, our oldest girls played basketball together. Their freshman year in high school. That's the only way we really get to know him. His wife, Miss Wiley, is from Fort Davis. I'm from Pecos. And so me and her, you know, we have a West Texas connection.
Yeah,
I mean, you're from West Texas.
Yeah.
You know, we're all Texans, but there's
Texas
a difference in
yeah.
West Texas and East Texas, you know. So we're enjoying that freshman year, you know, with our kids and playing ball and cutting up. And me and Miss Wiley are the loudest people at the basketball game cheering for our kids. And Mr. Wiley's very conservative, very quiet, my wife, same way. She's like, you know, so me and Miss Wiley even like it more, you know. And then we're going to the First Baptist Church, and I'm going there because my attorney, who's been my attorney through a couple of bad truck wrecks, or a bad truck wreck and another mess, is a Sunday school teacher.
Okay.
And he asked me to come, and I said, "Man, you people don't want me there." I mean, I'm not bashing them.
Right.
I know me.
Yeah.
You know, and I was under the deception of the devil that says, you know, you don't need to be in a church if you're still carrying the world's crap with you, and you're still, man, I'm still working through a lot of stuff.
Right.
You know, and he was like, you don't understand. His word to me was, our church ain't no hotel for saints. It's a hospital for sinners, and you need to go see the doctor. Is what he told me.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with a truck wreck.
That's great.
You know, and he's still one of my best friends as far as spiritual, and he still counsels me on different things. So we started going to his Sunday school.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to go to.
Yeah,
I didn't have any desire to go to big church, but my wife was raised in church, and you can't do that.
Yeah,
I did not know you couldn't do it. I'm like, let's go eat. We'll meet all these people to dinner. You know, she's like, you can't do that. You have to go. We have to go to church. You cannot slick out. You know. So we're going to big church, and we're sitting there, and Mr. Wiley, who also taught Sunday school, sang in the choir, and the Lord been pulling on him for like close to a year to start a Cowboy church. And he called me one night and said, I looked around, and I've looked around for several weeks. Where are all your people at on a Sunday morning?
Wow.
What do you mean, my people?
Yeah.
He said, you're the only cowboy. You're the only, you know, cowboy guy that's there. Mr. Wiley's an engineer. You know, the closest thing he's been to a cowboy is he went to A&M.
Okay.
You know, super great guy.
Right.
Truly, truly a man of God.
Right.
The first man of God. He is a man of God. He is not a man that knows God. He is a man of God.
Right.
I'm like, man, why is this guy calling me? You know, he told me what the Lord's really pulling on him to start a cowboy church and want to know if I'd help. He said, you're the only one. Where are your people? So I told him, most of them are at work. Those that ain't at work are too hung over to go to work. A lot of them that are at work are hung over, but they have to go to work. And he kind of laughed, and he said, would they ever go to church? Would they ever go to, if God called us to build a church for them, would they come? And I thought of two people, and I thought, you know, probably. But let me ask these two guys. And I called my older brother, and I called my best friend, been my best friend since school, since junior high. And both of them kind of give me the same answer. I'm not going to say it exactly how they said it, but I don't know, probably, you know, pretty much. And so I said, yeah, probably. That was the best answer, you know, which Wiley was praying, and Wiley was going to do what God told him to do. Yeah. He's so obedient. If nobody ever showed up, he would have built it. Right. Because God told him to. Yeah. You know, I mean, he's just that kind of a servant. And so that all started in 2006. And then y'all at first you started in a gas station or something? Well, what was it? You know, it's crazy. A building, some kind of a building. Yeah, we started in a like a rent house.
Okay.
And met like 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a rent house, and then we was praying and just a small group, and then Easter Sunday of 07, we had converted an old gas station, been abandoned for a year or so, and in fact, my dad built the gas station.
Wow.
And my dad was held up at gunpoint, shot at 3 times, and pistol whipped.
Wow.
New Year's Eve of like 04 or 05 in that gas station. So when we go to clean that gas station out, we're tearing out them counters, and there's literally the bullets are in them counters. He shot at them twice. It was crazy. You know, it's like, okay, corral. I wanted to save the countertop, you know. But anyway, we cleaned it out, and man, it was a mess, and converted it. And we had the first Sunday we met there was Easter Sunday of 07. And it was full. It was full.
Wow.
And by summer of 07, you know, we put air conditioner in it. By summer of 07, the ladies would sit inside the gas station, and the men would stand outside because it was hot, you know, and we didn't want any women standing outside. So all the men would, not all of them, but most of the men, especially my age and younger, the younger guys, we stood outside and listened to church through the window because it was full, you know. And Tony King actually shared a testimony, and a guy was in there that builds stuff. He's a builder. It's what he's gifted, and he's a vision. You know, he's bigger thinker than most of us. And Tony shared a testimony because, you know, he had a major accident. And
Yeah, I remember that.
busted both of his legs up pretty bad and was on his back for a while. And man, our church we didn't have nothing. We were just a bunch of people that would do something. So we helped Tony get all that done, do some different things.
Yeah.
And he shared his testimony. And this guy was there to listen, and he said, "Y'all need a bigger church."
Yeah.
And so we were like, "Yeah, we probably do." And but we got. You know, we ain't even got the first piece of paperwork done. We're just plodding along, you know. We sat down and on a napkin drew a picture of the dimensions of the church, and and he said, "Let me get back with you on that." Like 2 or 3 days later, he said, "I've got leftover trusses off of a construction job that are the exact dimensions, and I'm delivering them."
Wow.
And we're like, "Okay, to where?"
Oh, you didn't have
We had no land. Yeah,
Okay.
we had that little gas station. And he's like, "Well, find it." So, and Mr. Wiley had been praying, and he had took a map and drawn a circle of East Texas, of our areas within, he did a radius kind of thing, you know, like an engineer would do. And Tatum, Texas was the middle. Pretty much same distance to Longview, to Carthage, to Marshall, to Henderson. He said, "I believe the Lord wants a church in Tatum, Texas." And so then we found the property, and the rest is history. We built the building, added to it.
Yeah.
Been blessed.
Yeah. And how was it that they nominated you to become the preacher?
Well, it wasn't really a nomination. It was we ain't got no choice. You know, we had a pastor, and he was a great guy. And he loved the Lord, and he'd done a super job. And I was just always, you know me, I'm full of crap. I'm always, and I'm always got a story. You know what I'm saying? My life is full of stuff that makes people go, "That's just," they either say, "That's stupid," like, "Why would you do that?" Or, "That's amazing." How, you know.
And that goes with running wide open.
Yeah. And not knowing that you shouldn't do certain, you know, that don't make sense. I just do it. So I would always welcome everybody. And let me tell you what happened this week. And everybody loved to hear it, you know.
Wow, okay.
So just the Lord kind of would give me something, you know, and it'd be a short, not a message, but a short, let me tell you what I did. And everybody like, "Okay, tell us." And I'd share something. And then, you know, we had been a church till, like I said, Thanksgiving to Christmas, right in that area between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And this guy's wife kind of blew up a little bit, the preacher's wife. And we had to address some stuff, you know. Some things you just got to address.
Right.
You know, and so we try to address it, and we're not getting nowhere. And we're like, "Man, you got, telling the preacher, you got to help us here, dude. You got to, we're not going to not act like this. You know, we're going to fix this. We want to fix it. How do we help you fix it?
Right.
And he stepped down.
Okay.
He stepped down from pastor, and he said, I've got to step away, and ended up him and her ended up divorcing. You know, tragics of life. You know, we didn't have no preacher, and there's me and Tony and Mr. Wiley and Mr. Bridges, and a couple others, Chris Burris and Dale, my brother, and we're all just sitting there and we're praying. What do we do? And I said, what we don't do is we don't just go pick somebody. That's a big mistake. You don't just go out of desperation.
Right.
Okay, you'll do. I mean, if we're going to do, you'll do, one of us will do.
Right.
And I said, why don't we just do that? Why don't, Wiley, you do something? You know, why don't we just not run out there and get somebody that will do? Let's just trust the Lord that will. He'll make do with what he's got.
Right.
I mean, do we either believe that or we don't? And it's really that simple in everything. You know, do you trust him or do you don't?
Right.
We say we trust him, but then we trust him and think we got to go find what's needed.
Yeah.
What did the Lord tell the disciples? Well, what do you got?
Right. Right.
Well, we ain't got nothing but a little bit of fish and a little bit of bread. Okay, that'll work.
You're right.
You know?
Yep. That's good.
I mean, it sounds like but that's really what it is.
Good, yeah.
What do you got? We looked around the room. We ain't got much. but do we trust him?
Yeah.
And so the next Sunday, I did this is what the Lord showed me this week. And I've been doing that for 15 years now.
Yeah, that's something that I saw pretty unique, was that you were talking about what happened that week, and it would match up with a good Bible lesson, you know, and it would match up really good. And it was a visual that people could really relate to, especially the people who were going to church there, they're country folk. And they liked it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it spoke to them, and it's so simple. You know, I mean, it's so simple that everybody could get something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and even if you're not saved,
yeah,
even if you don't know the Lord, even if you've never read your Bible, you've had blowouts on the side of the road.
Right.
You know, you've left the water on in the water trough.
Oh, yeah.
And it run all night.
All of it. It's a lesson that God uses for you.
Every bit of it. Yeah.
To speak to people.
Yep.
And
he's still, and as long as I do what he wants me to do, as long as I ain't running my deal, he still does that today.
Yeah.
But at times I get,
right,
and then my wife will tell me, that's not who you are.
Oh, she kind of reminds you. You know, is it kind of like, okay, that's great, but it's not. It's not you. In your
you're
lane.
out of your lane.
You're out of your lane.
She don't necessarily say it that blunt, but I hear it that blunt.
Right.
You know.
Do you take that as good advice?
Used to not. Used to would hurt my feelings and you know, kind of. But now I look to it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Me and her.
Yeah.
And the devil's done a lot to destroy us. But she's my best friend on this earth.
Oh, yeah. You got to have someone like that.
Oh.
Someone you can trust. Oh, boy. So I know a lot of cowboy preachers. And I keep an eye on a lot of them and hear their stories. And I hear something that's kind of common behind a lot of the background. And one thing that I've noticed a lot is they wear themselves out. And sometimes when I'm talking to them, they're on their last leg. And they're like, oh, gosh, I need to take a break or I'm not going to be able to make it. It seems like that happens a lot.
I'm right in the middle of a 2-week break.
Yeah.
I told them I gotta back up.
And I think it has a lot to do with, you know, running full, you know, and it's the way the cowboy culture.
Yeah. And Joe, as sad as it has a lot to do with pride.
Wow.
I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, our culture is prideful.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taught that way. When I brand every yearling, every cow I put a brand to, I'm proud of that brand. And by God, if you ain't proud of that brand, you don't need to work for me. That's just the truth. I mean it still to this day. If that brand don't mean something, then don't come on my place. You won't draw but one check, and that'll be your last check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the mentality that that our life is. But the same way when it comes to the Lord.
Yeah.
It means something.
Right.
But it's a good pride.
Yeah.
but it can be damaging pride.
Right. Because you don't take a break. Even Jesus took breaks.
You don't, and we're all people.
Yeah.
And so, but it's very easy to become the man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're the man, he ain't.
That's right.
So
yeah.
It's, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, in my world, you always want to have two horses. You want to have the one you trust, the one that's made, and we call them broke. A lot of people think they got a broke horse. They just have a gentle horse. We want a broke horse. That broke horse knows what I need done before I tell it. And it begins to do. It works with me. It don't work for me. You know, that's a broke horse. So you want that horse, and you want the horse you're making.
Oh, okay.
Because that horse is going to be dead one day.
So you have the one that is reliable, that knows every bit about you, but you're training.
You're making one.
You're making one.
Yeah, you're making one.
It's like making a disciple.
Yes, sir. And it's not really training, because training is intellectual. It's knowledge inputted. Making one is time. Relationship. So much so that horse picks up on you, knows you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference in the arena world. I don't know the arena world. I just know Cowboy world. And you know, you talk to you watch the Cowboy channel. You watch anywhere they're interviewing those contestants that use a horse. When they talk about their connection to their horse, it's not what that horse did in the arena. It's what that horse does every day. You know, I mean, I had an old horse, Ahab, that belonged to a good friend of mine, that Ahab would greet me every morning the same way. You know, and he made me chuckle, you know, and then I was making a horse called Rooster, and Rooster belonged to the same guy. He's got such a great bloodline. And I was making Rooster, and Rooster could get out any gate. He's such a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But, and so we get to know each other, and there's a relationship, and Ahab was made. Ahab he's a good scamp. I mean, as good a horse I've ever rode. And Rooster was being made. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the same way we should be in church. I should be a broke horse.
Right.
But I should be allowing God to use me to make.
Yeah. Is that difficult for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Until Wednesday night, Billy Jack did church last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, man.
That's
and
great.
you watch him balk, and you watch him get tied up and go, and you're like,
are you proud?
Oh, I was so proud of him last night.
Awesome.
You know, and he commented on something. He called me this morning, 6 o'clock. I got to talk to you. So, what's going on? I need you to forgive me. I said, for what? What? He said, I made some stupid comment about 9 fingers, and you're the only person I know that's got 9 fingers, so I was picking on you, and I should never do that in public. I said, wait a minute. I am the only guy you should do that to.
Right. Okay.
Because you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Right.
You can't hurt my feelings.
Right.
I'm not in this relationship because I got feelings.
Yeah.
It's not, you know. So, and you know how guys are. When a guy's in a position he's uncomfortable, most of us respond in one of two ways: in anger or in humor, because we're uncomfortable.
Right.
So we go to anger or we go to humor.
Right.
That's the emotions we're comfortable with.
Yeah.
He went to humor, and he used me.
Yeah.
I mean, use me anytime. In fact, use me on both ways. Humor, but if you got to blow up on me, because me and you'll work it out. You're not going to damage. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the relationship. That's where I'm thankful to be there, because Mr. Wiley was that guy for me.
Right.
I mean, you know, he's seen me. What I call butt ugly. You know, butt ugly ain't very pretty. And he's seen me butt ugly in the church. And he'd be like, okay. And I've been, and he goes on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He goes on. He's like, that's okay. That's good.
A lot of patience.
Oh.
You know, letting you grow up in the Lord. So that's what you're doing now.
And that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
The problem is, you're still a pastor of church.
Yeah.
And so you still have a bunch of people that don't understand, or that don't. They are demanding of you.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't care about them. It's not that I don't want to, you know.
Yeah.
But I'd rather send Billy Jack to do that, because I would rather say Billy Jack, because he don't believe he can.
Right.
And they don't believe he would.
So he needs time.
Oh, man.
He needs time in that almost like you're training someone else. They gotta
making a horse.
Yeah, have to have lots of time.
You don't make a horse without having a few wrecks.
Yeah.
You don't. You don't make a horse without tying him, roping, something too big for him every now and then. But you got to be able to know I'm not going to get him hurt.
Right.
How to get the everything is pressure and release. Horses respond to pressure, and when they respond to the pressure, you give them release so that they feel the release of the pressure. You follow me?
And then they start reading you.
Yes. Okay. Then they start understanding. They sense. They discern where to move, when to move. We do this. We do the same thing with the Spirit. The Spirit of God, pressure and release. He applies pressure. So you go, oh, okay. I'm gonna stay here for a minute because there's no pressure here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if we, the man, handle everything in our churches and handle everything that we do, how do they learn pressure and release?
They don't learn.
They don't.
No.
Then
And you have a lot of years doing this, and so you have a lot of wisdom. But you got to step back and share the wisdom, but let them go out there and operate.
Yep. You don't want to become the next seminary.
Right.
Where you're telling people this is what you need to know.
Right.
That's not where they learn pressure and release, the direction of the Holy Spirit, the discernment of where God wants me to sit down.
You can't learn cowboying on a textbook.
No, sir. You can't learn it watching John Wayne and the Cowboys made in 1972. I've watched it my whole life, but you can't learn it.
Right.
It's there.
So to learn it, you're going to have
live
to
it.
You're going to get knocked off a horse.
Yes, sir. You got to lose a finger by a nylon rope. You got to lose a right eye by a tree limb getting ripped out.
What was this gunshot to the leg thing?
I was playing John Wayne, shooting my brother's .22 pistol, and I was proud of myself, so I spun it, going back in the holster. And it spun up and come down on the trigger and went in right above my knee, drove all the way through my knee.
Oh.
They did arthroscopic surgery on me here in Longview and retracted the bullet out the same hole that it went in.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but it wasn't very fun. My dad wasn't very proud of me.
Oh, what? How old were you?
I was a freshman.
Okay.
Freshman in high school, yeah. Freshman year. In fact, the first week of school, my freshman year.
Wow.
Because I played the first game in high school, my freshman year. I got to go in. And then the second game, I was out because I had surgery and had my knee rebuilt. The whole season. It was that was an awesome season. Best year we ever had in football, and I didn't get to play a down.
That's great.
But I was an assistant coach. I was a statistician. They put me in the press box till I was cussing out the other team. I was coming out of that, so they removed me from there. They're like, we got to find somewhere for this kid to be. But
do you, a lot of people around East Texas know that you're a cowboy preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get any pushback from like religious folk in your style because of the way you are, the way you preach?
Oh yeah. And you know what, Joe? Here's the truth, and I've been noticing this, and I think we notice it, but we don't. We haven't, as a society, we haven't began to just function that way. It's like inflation. You notice it because you can't buy the same stuff,
right.
But you haven't come to terms with the fact that this is really how it is. You know what I'm saying? So I think I think the pushback comes from the church and the unchurched.
Okay. Yeah.
I had it from both sides, especially 15 years ago. You're I mean, I've been standing in line at the gas station and overheard people say, stuff about our church or about me as a pastor. Like, well, I mean, he don't preach. All he does is tell stories. I mean, you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah. But on the other side, there's a lot of people who really enjoy this style of message. They get a lot out of it, especially men.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I got to take that back. A lot of women love this too, and I've noticed from there's a television broadcast, and then of course the lives that go out each service. It has a lot of people watching, and you do a daily thing.
I do on Facebook.
And this is just to kind of like get people waking up thinking about God. That I think is valuable.
I mean, and every day, I mean, I got a yearling operation at the house. I feed them yearlings every morning. And there's multiple reasons, but you got to feed them. They got to have feed to grow, but you also got to feed them so that they trust you and come to you. You got to feed them regularly.
And you're talking more than just letting them out in pasture.
No, I make grind feed, put it in a trough, every day.
Okay.
And so that's also how you find out who's sick, because if they don't come to eat, they don't feel very good. There's so many things.
Wow, okay.
Well, it's the same, and it parallels our spiritual journey. I mean, we have to quit being a society that thinks I can get fed on Sunday and be great Monday through Friday. You won't be. You won't be worth a crap. In fact, some of you won't even survive the week because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We became a society that got fed on Sundays.
Yeah.
That's what happened. I don't know when. I don't know, but that's what. Oh, you go to church, so you do that on Sunday.
Yeah.
No. I go to church every day.
Right.
In fact, I am the church.
Yeah.
But I'm not worth a flip as a church if I'm not taking in nutrition every day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, it was a blessing from COVID when COVID hit and everybody's going virtual, you know, and which we're like, what do we need to do? Well, I felt like the Lord, actually it was just for men at first, just do a men's podcast every morning to spur them up a little bit, you know. They're drinking that first cup of coffee. Let's go. And so we started doing that, and then it rolled over into doing one for the church as well. So we do 2 a day. We do one at 6:30 and one at 7.
And you have other guys that are stepping up and doing them too. Right?
Yeah, because
it's an everyday deal.
it's like, you know, I mean, which
it's good. I tune in and I watch these guys. I thought this is good word.
Good word.
Yes, sir.
May have a different flavor to it. You know, I like to eat Mexican food every day, but some people want to, want Italian. I never want Italian, but that's fine. It's still food.
Right.
You know,
it's good stuff.
Yeah. Serve it, and there again, we can't say we should never be the man.
Yeah.
My brother has said for years, ever since we started having church, you need to always be hunting your replacement.
And Dale.
Yeah, that's Dale, and he's right.
Yeah, he's a good man.
We should always be hunting and preparing, making our replacement. That's the concept of the 2 horses. You have the one you ride, the one you use, but you better be making another. Because if you've ever been a cowboy and woke up with your horse, your using horse dead, which happens.
What?
Yeah.
You're using horse is dead. You wake up and it's dead.
Now what? You can't even go to work. You can't even go to work.
How long would it take to get another horse to that place again?
Shoot. I mean, I've rode junk and I show Cowboy, which I ain't, a real hand. He can ride a pretty green horse and get a day's work done. But it takes 3 years to build a horse. 3 to 5 to make a horse. And I mean a horse. You know, I've had one in my life. One.
I remember Dale, he lost a horse about 10 years ago, I think, and it had an effect.
It's like losing a family member. I mean, it's not like you get emotional and you cry and you lay in your bed for a week. It totally, it's a blow to your life. It's your partner.
Yeah.
That you do what you do because y'all do it together, and now you you got to have, that was Homer. Dale's horse was called Homer.
Oh, that's what his name was. How long did he have him?
Oh, I bet Homer was 15 or so.
Wow.
I don't know. I told you I had Ahab I was using, and I was making roosters. And I come out one morning. Rooster was 5 years old, really making a horse. And Rooster had got the gate open. And I don't know what he got into, but he had cut the bottom hop. And he bled out that morning.
Whoa.
Yep. And you're sick. You're sick. I mean, you're like, man, not just because of what you lost, but because of the goodness that he had that don't get used no more. You know, it's one of the reasons the only reason I think we should grieve when Christians die is because, you suffered loss, but the goodness they provided is no longer available.
Yeah.
That's why you grieve.
Yeah.
You should celebrate for them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
hallelujah. They get to go home, be with the Lord. But, man, the goodness that they had for a place that needs goodness, it's gone.
Yeah.
And if a Christian dies and you don't grieve for that, they wasn't very much of a Christian.
Right.
They wasn't very much, they what we call yard art. That's a horse that stands out there and looks good, but you can't do nothing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just a yard ornament, pasture ornament.
Yeah.
They stand out there and look pretty, but you can't. What can you do with it? Nothing.
Yeah.
So you don't grieve that sucker.
Yeah.
You're glad it's off the feed bill. That sucker costs you money. You ain't getting nothing out of it.
Yeah. It's funny, the first time like I met you and we did some TV shows, some specials, and we did one. It was all on dogs, and I thought, this is completely a different world because he defined the dog one way and I define dog another way, and it taught me that city folks and people who grow up ranching, they don't think alike. And a dog, he's there to do a job.
That's right.
It's not to eat and look pretty.
No, or to be petted.
It to be petted or to coddle.
Work.
Is work.
Yep. Partner, do me good, I'll do you good.
And what I noticed was these dogs weren't miserable. They were living life
in their element.
Oh my gosh.
That's why they're born.
Yeah, they were just alive.
That's why they're born. It's just like rodeo. Them bucking horses, that's the highlight of their week. and people what don't understand them think they're being abused.
Right. Yeah.
Abuse is when you make that sucker fat and he can't do nothing but lay on a pad in their washroom. That's abuse. I mean, but there are dogs that are made for that. My wife has a schnauzer. That's all that thing's good for.
Yeah.
Laying out there, pat it. Okay, good girl. You know what I'm saying? She does her job. That's great.
Right.
But my dogs work.
They work. Yeah.
They work. If they don't work, they don't stay.
Yeah. I'll show a little bit of behind the scenes of that stuff right now, so you guys can see what we're talking about. But yeah, and you have to maintain control of these dogs. Some of these dogs, just a voice command, and they take care of it. I remember going out to the White's ranch.
Galen White's, yeah.
And watching
him and Miss Patty.
His dog do everything.
Yep.
They're on a little
side by side,
and the dog's doing all the work.
You know what's crazy? Back then I did everything on horseback, and I used cur dogs or that bayed, and he used a border collie.
Yeah. That
a cur dog holds and a bay dog fetches. I mean, a collie dog fetches. Like a cur dog, you set dogs on a set of cows, they hold them, they bay them, and they will not move until you back your dogs out and release the pressure so that the cattle know, okay, flow that way. That's where there's no pressure at, right?
Okay.
Collie dogs go get and bring to me.
Okay, yeah.
And so as a young man, I like to go bay them and hold them. And I would release a little, you know what I'm saying? And I love a yellow dog hanging on a yearling. I mean, man, just hearing them, now I'm about the same age Mr. Galen was back then. Right. And I got 2 border collies and a side by side. Yeah. I'm like, I had a guy ask me yesterday, do you ever use your horse? I said, nope. No, I do everything with that border collie and this side by side.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really remarkable watching that operation. Pretty amazing. One dog. The whole thing.
Yep. One dog. Yep.
And during that time, he was starting to develop another dog.
Yep. You always got to be making the next one.
Yeah.
Always got to be making your replacement because ranching, life and death's right there. It happens right. It happens
in front
of that day. Yeah. I mean, and if it happens that day, you still got to get up and go tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, that's just life. You get up and go tomorrow. So you better be making the next one.
Well,
we're way off your deal.
No, this is really good. I got to question number 1.
The first hour we've been sitting here.
Yeah. But I do want to do. I want to do some more because there's a lot of great things that I want to talk about, and really I want to revisit that thing about the structure of these cowboy preachers and they're called to a tough life. It's not an easy thing to do. And some of the pitfalls that are in front of them and some of the ways they can fall into traps and discuss some of those things. But we'll get to that another time.
Whenever you're ready.
Appreciate, man.
Yeah, bet, bud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.